This is absolutely crazy. What a tragic collapse. It's happening in China, guys. And when I saw the video that I'm about to show you, I have a lot of footage for you, many videos. But when I saw the first video, I was like, what is happening? Is this a mountain coming down and crashing on a bridge and completely destroying a brand new bridge, and not just a normal bridge? No, an impressive bridge, like a groundbreaking bridge that was advertised and was just finished. Guys, what am I talking about? And I want to say, nature gives us warnings, and kudos to the Chinese officials. They have seen the warning and they have evacuated, because that could have resulted in the loss of people in the most tragic way, guys. So it's not really clear if we can call this infrastructure failure or not, because it's a mountain failure. Of course, if you build infrastructure where that mountain is, did you really analyze this correct? What happened? Did the bridge cause the mountain collapse? Was it really a landslide? We will look into this, guys, because it's absolutely crazy. It just happened in southwest China. A large section of the Hongqi Bridge that is located in Mekong in Sichuan province has partially collapsed. That bridge was not old, guys, and it wasn't outdated. So it was not that the material was tired and old and brittle. No, it was completed only 2 months ago, and it was part of a major highway corridor linking central China with the plateau of Tibet. So, and now a long-standing section is gone. They were so proud of it. It's a huge bridge. The Honqi Bridge spans approximately half a mile, a little bit more than half a mile, 758 meters, and it was built to support road traffic, not trains. There's news circling around that was only a train bridge or something like this. No, car traffic, road traffic. So this was the key highway route in a quite steep mountainous region where there are few viable transportation corridors, so a critical piece of infrastructure. And the terrain in this part of Sichuan is extremely steep, high altitude, covered by deep river valleys, and very prone to landslides. If you follow my channel and you've seen what happened in Blatten, I just released an update, by the way. It's like a lot of water in high slopes lubricate everything and can lead to these dramatic landslides. We have deep river valleys there, and if this is so steep and you have these mountains, the risk is high. And the area sits near the eastern margin of the Tibetan Plateau, which is geologically one of the most tectonically stressed regions on Earth. And tectonically, yeah, that movement with earthquakes and stuff like that, of course, can make rocks and mountains even more brittle than they would already be, like through rain and weather. And there's another problem. The landscape there is actively rising. The faults there are active, so there's movement. That's why the slopes are unstable. And when you build a road or a bridge in a location like this, and you have to anchor your bridge on steep slopes, slope stability becomes the #1 engineering challenge. And while I'm talking, you see the videos behind me. I mean, this is mind-blowing. I don't want to say groundbreaking. You guys, if you watch my channel more often, you know what that means. And hey guys, since you're here and since you're watching, can you leave this video an early like and hype it if you can? Share it with your friends. Thank you so much. And what is known now so far is that the collapse did not appear to be caused by a sudden impact or failure in the steel or concrete itself. So it's not the structure itself. So local authorities are saying they had already detected cracks that were developing in the surrounding slopes and roadway. And guys, sadly, that is, of course, very alarming. And maybe you remember, hopefully you have seen my video about the Vajont Dam disaster that has buried a village, Blatten style, I have to say, even more devastating, way more devastating. In Blatten, they evacuated in time. The Vajont Dam, the mountain was giving a warning. So this was not the dam collapsing from water. This was a mountain that showed a mysterious crack. I'll put this in the end screen because what happened? Nobody would have imagined. And here they saw the crack and they reacted. At the Vajont Dam, they didn't react. They saw the crack. So good, Chinese authorities. So the cracks were developing around the bridge, on the roadway, and on the slopes. So they were like, what's happening there, right? So that gives us the indication that the problem was not the bridge deck itself, but the land where the bridge was attached. So the approach to the bridge, the roadway that leads to the bridge, it showed signs of deformation. So that is never, never good. We saw cracks, no, not we, but they saw cracks in the asphalt. They saw uneven settling with a new road. That's alarming. And they saw shifting terrain. So guys, I mean, my subscribers, you know, these are classic warning signs of a landslide or a deep slope movement, how this is called. And again, to their credit, once those cracks were noticed, the bridge was actually closed to traffic. Good job. So when the collapse happened, at that time, there were no cars or buses or anybody on the bridge. And this has most likely, definitely, I would say, prevented casualties. So far, no loss has been reported, which is great. But if you see these videos, geez. So the collapse is linked to the ground movement. Essentially, the mountainside seems to have shifted. What we know is when we have a terrain like this, even if it's like a fjord in Alaska or mountains in Switzerland, for example, when slopes in these high mountain environments begin to slide, they don't always slide quickly. Sometimes they creep, moving centimeter by centimeter, and then you can estimate that it might come down all at once or partially, but the pressure on any structure that is attached to that slope is also building silently, but it's building. And a bridge that is fixed to the land on both ends, where the land is actually moving, that puts a strain on this structure. So let's say if the land under just one side moves even by a small amount, that creates stress, guys, that the bridge was never ever designed to absorb. And then eventually the structure fails. The structure has failed pretty quickly after it was initially constructed. Experts say, well, the weather, there was heavy rainfall and then freeze-thaw cycles also as potential contributing factors. Of course, this raises the question, didn't they know this beforehand, before they built that bridge? Didn't they factor that in? Well, in mountainous regions like this, water seeps into cracks in rocks and like a sponge a little bit. It lubricates everything, makes them more brittle. We have this in my Blatten update in Switzerland. Now they think they can do a little bit more. I have brand new images because now it's freezing, that it keeps the rocks together. But if there's lots of water and rain, it lubricates everything. There probably a lot of rainfall, water seeps into the rock. Then when temperatures drop, the water freezes and it expands in the rock, pushing the rocks apart as well, right? So it can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. In Blatten, they say they're happy, they think it keeps the the mountain that is still coming down up there with the freezing process. And it pushes the rock apart, but keeps it still together because it's frozen. But over time, this weakens the entire slopes. And Sichuan is known for slopes that can look stable for years and then suddenly collapse and give way. But there's also, guys, a deeper long-term factor. This region, as I just mentioned, is uplifted by tectonic forces as well. The Tibetan Plateau is expanding outward due to the collision of India and Asia. So this tectonic pressure constantly creates fractures, fault lines, and zones where the rock strength is already compromised. And then you build the bridge, right? Of course, you need this critical part of infrastructure, I get it. But combine that with erosion from rivers, seasonal storms, and you have slopes that are absolutely naturally primed to move and come down. Now, again, I know what you're going to ask, so I'll answer these questions. If the area is known to be unstable, how did this happen so soon after the bridge was completed? These are the kinds of questions that will definitely be asked in the investigation that's now following. Modern engineering is able to account for slope stability. Geological studies are normally done before the construction so that you know what's going on with the mountain. But of course, no geological study can fully override nature or predict it. So the reality is, infrastructure in extreme mountain environments always carries risk, especially if it's such an impressive structure. And even well-constructed bridges in the Himalayas, in the Andes, in the Caucasus, they also face the exact challenges, guys. This is not the only bridge. But that being said, China has seen a rapid build out of infrastructure over the past 2 decades. And yes, there have been concerns raised in the past about quality control and pressure to complete major, like symbolic construction projects quickly. And there have been issues, right? Whether that played a role here is absolutely not confirmed. So we don't want to make any assumptions before we know more. So we do not yet have any evidence of construction defects. What we have right now points out most strongly to land deformation, meaning the land itself moved out from under the structure. If you build fast, doesn't naturally mean that it's a bad thing, because things are so slow in our areas in the West because of building permits. Everything takes forever until one bureaucratic entity passes it on to the next. So big projects can take 10 years. In China, it's a different political system. If someone says this is going to be built, it's going to be built tomorrow. But also, I want to clarify something because I've seen some posts online. They say the highest bridge in the world collapsed today. That's not correct. The Hongqi Bridge is not the world record holder. The highest bridge in terms of its clearance is the Beipanjiang Bridge in Guizhou province, also in China. And that bridge has, by the way, not collapsed, right? So the Hongqi Bridge was significant regionally, I would say, but not globally. So what's the takeaway from this? If we watch these videos, what we're seeing is a combination of geology, climate, and engineering being tested in one of the most difficult environments on Earth. This project has failed. And I'm sure there's going to be a detailed investigation into whether warning signs were recognized early enough, right? Whether slope monitoring instruments were in place, and whether the bridge supports were adequately designed for this specific terrain. It's always with the mountains where these infrastructure projects is, you have to have instruments in place that even measure tiny amounts of changes. So So for now, definitely that highway remains closed. There's no way you can drive over it. There's emergency crews in the area that are securing the area, because if the slope continues to move, we could see additional failures. And any attempt to rebuild, I mean, that's out in the open, but that will require stabilizing the entire hillside. If that is even possible, they would have to do some drilling, drainage tunnels. But drainage tunnels, they have done this in other areas. They have done this in Brienz. That landslide, for example, does not help. And we would need to build more retaining structures, or sometimes even reroute the entire highway. So guys, if you're interested in mountain collapses, landslides, check out my Blood playlist. This is also a very important, interesting video about the Hochvogel that is cracking up, and lots of stuff. Just have a look at the end screen, but also subscribe, have a look at my channel. Lots of interesting videos there. If you want to support the channel, link is in the description. You can buy me coffee, click for a supporting membership and behind the scene videos. And thank you for your support. Thank you everyone for watching, hyping, liking, don't forget. And I see you in a second, hopefully. Bye-bye.